and tends to be the very far east side of Elgin, which a lot of times falls into the Cook County area. A lot of the homes were built in like the 70s and 80s in this area. So for a buy, fix, and sell or for a rent, this property I'm going to show you today is a good play either way. You could use it as a buy, fix, and sell. You can also do it as a rental property. So let's kind of dive into this property, get some details together. So we're heading over to 295 Waverly in Elgin. This property, I'm limited on the number of photos, so it's going to be a little bit of a surprise on the inside, so we can make some assumptions what it's like just based on kind of worst case scenario. This home here, let's get some of the details pulling up. It's 1,194 square feet. This one's a tri-level, so and the only way you really can tell is if I scroll up to the photo, you've got like a little tiny peak you can see here, and that's the sign that this is a tri-level within the subdivision. This builder built throughout the Chicagoland area in the late 70s and early 80s, so this is a pretty common model that's out there, and they're all tri-levels. It's 1,194 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it again always says 1 story, but we all know it's a tri-level, built in 1973. So this property here, good play. We want to be pulling comps as always, just south of this major street that we have here, which is 58 Gulf Road. And then we want to kind of stay north of what is Bodie Road here. And most of these comps are falling into our neighborhood, which is perfect. If I see an outlier a little bit further north here, there's a couple properties. Those are not going to be really good comps because they're north of Gulf Road. And Gulf Road's a major road. And usually the subdivisions are divided up that way. So it just makes it a little bit quicker when you're running comps to try to like zone in your particular neighborhood. And then if you have to expand out, there are times you can go outside the neighborhood. Appraisers do it, so do realtors. But if you have enough comps, where here I've got plenty of investors that have bought properties, fixed them up, and sold them. So I have a lot of comps to pull from. So we know what we're working with, a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,194 square feet, single family home. And let's just start going through some of the comps within the neighborhood. Okay, here's a property that is identical to the subject. Again, the square footage is a little bit different. This one says it's 1,270 square feet. Ours says 1,194 square feet. The difference is whatever the realtor put in as a value. That's why Zillow, for us as investors, is really not all that helpful, because Zillow does factor square footage into their valuation, their Zestimate. And when that gets, if it's wrong, which it is a lot of times in the MLS, and they're pulling data from there, even tax records, maybe they're pulling data from, and if it's incorrect, that throws off the valuation completely. That's why taking that square footage approach to value a property is very difficult to do. And it's really, really hard to do if you have a tri-level style home or like a raised ranch where you have some of the houses below grade, which is true living space. It's not a basement. It's a lookout lower level. And most consumers consider that like part of the house in a tri-level. So let's dive in on this first comp. We've got 110 Joyceland Drive. And this one here, again, we can tell an investor bought this property, went in, did a nice little light rehab inside the house, put in the standard floors, the standard cabinet, standard issue, everything. But it looks good. I mean, this is a good, nice, clean property. And this one sold for $222,000. So let's just look at some of the specs. Again, they had labeled down 1,270 square feet. It sold for $222,000. 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, built in 1978, and it popped out in 36 days. So that was a quick sale. Good play. This investor probably, depending on what they bought it at, they got in and out of this property pretty quick. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at another comp within the neighborhood. Again, I'm trying to stay right in the subdivision itself and look what's out there, just to see if I can find another one that looks like a tri-level. That's the, if I can compare it against, here's a tri-level. 174 Highbury Drive. This property likely was an investor, and they did what we do on a lot of properties. I call it the refresh, and we're not going in and changing everything out. We'll probably sell it at a little bit of a discount, because we're not going in and changing everything. So they pretty much left all of the kitchen cabinets that are in there. Maybe they restained them. They maybe painted walls. It's nice and clean and tidy. It's a good looking property. This one popped out at 208, sold at 208. So again, this one says it's 1,110 square feet. I can't really use it's a tri-level, so it's not necessarily going to always be accurate. Sold for 208, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, built in 1977. And this one took 179 days to sell. So this one's a long time. Now, why would that be? Well, I look at the interior of the property. It looks like a nice, refresh inside the house. But obviously, peach is not as an interior color, what most consumers want today. The cabinets are definitely dated, but it's got some updates inside the property. So overall, a decent property, but we got to factor it in. Sold for 208, which to me seemed a little low anyways, likely because they just didn't, take it a level further in the renovation and kind of neutralize it a little bit. So paint goes a long way whenever you're trying to renovate a property. We all know that, and don't forget it. So let's take another look and see if we can find something else in the subdivision that's a closed property. We looked at Joycelyn. Let's see if there's anything here. That one was bought and sold as a... So what we want to try to eliminate is any of the foreclosures that are in there. You got to dig in a little bit and actually see what happened with a particular property. Here's one that's it's not an it's right in our neighborhood, okay? Not as big as the subject property. I know this particular model. It is a little bit smaller than us, but it would be a property I would use as a good comp. It's this one, the interior photos of this property. Again, nice, clean, tidy, not completely updated. It's got older cabinets. It's a mixture of cabinets, different styles, different color of staining on them. But I would say the color overall on the inside, like the paint on this particular property, for the most part is neutral, other than the hallway and some of the things that you can see in here. If it was neutralized a little bit more, we'd probably obviously get a little bit more out of it. This one, 1,160 square feet. Again, tri-level. It's not always accurate. 3 beds, 2 baths, 2-car garage, built in 1975. Days on market, 58 days, and it's under contract right now. So it has not closed. Its UC is under contract, and that property is waiting to close. So that's another good one to take a look at in the subdivision. And let's just take a look at something active. I always like to look at who's my competitor. And I've said this a number of times. The competitor is going to be probably somebody that you potentially could be competing with down the road. This property is, again, it's nice and tidy. It's just not completely renovated by any means. I've actually owned this particular model probably 3 or 4 times. I have one that's a rental like this. This one is, let's get to the details. It's a 3-bedroom. It's listed for $218,000, so it's on the market. 3 beds, 2 baths, 2-car garage. It is truly a 1-story. This is a ranch. It's a different model than the subject property. Built in 1976, and it's been on the market for 125 days. So when we look at this particular property, we know that this one is absolutely going to be potentially a competitor to us. Here's something that drives me nuts. Whenever you're looking at one of these properties and you see it's been on the market for a while, and you got snow photos, and we're rolling into middle of June. This is what I call realtor negligence. It's something that needs to be changed out, because this dates it. I mean, the consumer goes on and looks at these properties. So I digress. But so again, we kind of have a good idea. We have an identical property The one that is our best comp is this one over at 110 Joycelyn. And the reason being is that it's the same model as the subject. It would be renovated to a level that we would take it to. And I would say that this is going to be pretty darn close to what our value would be since we're looking at an identical model to the subject property. So let's take a quick look at the numbers on Waverly. It's $150,000 in what I'd like to be able to buy the property for. If we can pick this place up for maybe $135K, we're looking pretty good at a purchase of $135. The renovation on this property, again, we can't see the inside, but knowing the age of the unit and all the things that potentially could need to be done inside the property, I could probably put in around a $40K renovation to get the property renovated, and I would estimate a sales price of $220,000. So we're going to be able to get in for $135,000, put $40K into it, and it's worth $220,000. All right, we got ourselves check. This is a good property. It's got the spread we need. It's in a very desirable area, and this property is 100% a good play. So, as always, if you're interested in this property, give me a holler, and I can obviously get the offers submitted into the banks on these things. And give me some likes if you would on Facebook. It's nice to see our investors letting us know that you like what we're pushing out and the properties we're pushing out. And, we're doing this every day, every weekday. I will be pulling new deals and letting you know what's hot. But remember, we have a complete list of foreclosure properties that are kind of off book, off market that we've got in our inventory, and I can easily get those over to you via email or via text. All you got to do is just holler out to us. So, all right, well, hey, good luck investing today, and don't hesitate to give me a call. Thanks.